Harry's wife. No support for Harry in court. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As you know, Harry has made 2 appearances on consecutive days as he gave his evidence in his claim against Mirror Group newspapers. It did cause me to wonder whether Harry was brought as a claimant as a canny move by the lawyers, because would a judge really want to rule against a member of the royal family, albeit one who is perhaps not as quite in the royal family as he once was? Was that a tactical consideration that those bringing the claim thought would be useful? We shall find out. Harry has been giving his evidence and has appeared, of course, to much press interest and reportage about his appearances in court. It's often the case that when famous people appear in court, there is a frenzy of press activity. Photographers, people filming them, reporters explaining what has been going on in respect of the famous person's involvement in litigation, whether it's a breach of privacy claim, whether it's defamation claims, or where they found themselves falling foul of the criminal law. There's a lot of interest about that person's life and the evidence that they give. It's even more exciting, of course, where there is a clash of 2 famous people. And as we saw last year in the United States, there was that situation between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Often with these famous people, when they're turning up at court, they are supported by their friends and family. That there is the spouse or partner of the claimant or the plaintiff or the defendant that stands by them in their hour of need. We saw it, for instance, when Jeffrey Archer, all those years ago, was bringing his claim for defamation against a newspaper, where his wife, Mary, I think she was called, stood by his side and not only gave evidence in support of him and was described as being so fragrant by the presiding judge, ultimately not that it did much of a favour for Jeffrey Archer, who was found guilty of perverting the course of justice and extraordinarily, I think, was sentenced to 4 years in prison, which was quite a crazy sentence for something such as that, but they wanted to make an example of him for fabricating diary entries. But the point is that his wife was there in court, not only to provide him with moral support, but she also provided him with evidence in support of his claim. Other famous people have attended court with their spouse or partner there. You see them in the photographs, holding hands on the threshold of the court, giving an announcement to the press and the public thereafter, following the outcome of the judgment or the verdict, so that people end up seeing the famous person with their supportive spouse. They sit with them in court, dabbing their fevered brow, passing them notes, generally giving them a reassuring squeeze on the arm, engaging in all of those behaviours which demonstrate their support for the relevant individual. But what about Prince Harry? Where's his support? Harry's wife is nowhere to be seen. This notwithstanding the fact that Harry states that he has brought this claim in part to prevent the abuse of Harry's wife. What a noble and valiant act by this White Knight. Surely one which would be met with the favour of Harry's wife turning up to urge her champion on in the courtroom. But no, there is no appearance from her, despite Hello in a ridiculous puff piece trying to suggest that she may well have travelled across the ocean along with the children, part of her still trying to remain involved even though she isn't involved. She isn't there. Believe me, were she would be turning up at court each day and drinking it all in. Indeed, it wouldn't be a surprise to see her marching in front of Harry and then telling the barrister what he should be doing. But Harry's wife isn't there. Why? Well, some people will say the most obvious answer is that she's got to stay in Monte Shit Show and look after the children. That's hogwash. That's not something that she need do. The reason being is that she is quite happy to leave the children behind because, as I've explained in parts passing, she doesn't truly care for them. She creates an artifice of doing so. She makes it look like she cares because her narcissism dictates that's how she should behave. But if her narcissism detects that there's a better reason to be elsewhere and not around them, that is what prevails. She isn't governed by the principles of emotional empathy with regard to the care of her children. She's governed by the principles of the pursuit of the prime aims. So, as we saw, there have been instances where they swanned around New York, children nowhere to be seen. They attended the Queen's funeral, and they were in Britain for an elongated period of time. Children nowhere to be seen. Reason being, it's simply convenient for her to do what she requires, and somebody else will look after them. Now, some might say, well, it's a long way for her to go. But the fact is, she's not there for two reasons. One, her narcissism still perceives that she would be given a downright frosty reception if she were to step foot into the United Kingdom. Her narcissism recognises still that the media doesn't like her, that the general public doesn't like her, and, furthermore, that the royal family have been cold-shouldering her as well. Hence, we all know about the no-show at the coronation. Those things haven't altered. And whilst with some narcissists, through compartmentalization, they would brush all of that off, for her that has not happened, because there is so much repeated reportage about the disdain that the Sussexes are held in, that social media shows that to be the case, and there has been no thawing of the icy relations between them and the other members of the royal family, that her narcissism recognises there'll be too many threats to control for her to attend. Of course, if she had emotional empathy for Harry, she wouldn't care about the way that she was viewed by all these people. Of course, if she had emotional empathy, she wouldn't have the problem to begin with. But let us imagine that for some reason, notwithstanding having emotional empathy, she has caused problems with all these relations, she would still be there to stand by her man. He's facing the stress of court proceedings. He's being cross-examined. He'll probably be nervous about it, anxious about it. And, of course, he is apparently in part doing it for her. And therefore someone with emotional empathy would be there to support him, but not her. She's not there because she doesn't actually care. She's there because she has no emotional empathy for him. She's not there because her narcissism, which governs what she does, not her non-existent emotional empathy, deems that there'd be too many problems if she were to go, and therefore to protect her, it's better that she stay. And of course, it will cause her to trot out excuses such as, I need to be here to look after the children, I need to be here to do now 2 hours a week on Archwell because you're not here, Harry, I need to be here to reinvent myself. Also, of course, her narcissism will be ensuring that there is some clear blue water between her and Harry, as she did when she hung him out to dry with regard to Spare. If he succeeds, then you can imagine that she will hijack his success, saying that it's another victory for them to tell their story, that they have been heard, etc. However, what will happen is that should his claim fail, or, as is happening at the moment, his evidence just makes him look like a buffoon and a hypocrite, then she doesn't want to be involved in any of that, and she will distance herself from it. Hence, by not attending, she's able to do that. Indeed, she would revise history and say to Harry, I told you not to go. I told you this would be a disaster. They're laughing at us again, and it's all your fault. Harry, of course, would be confused. Oh, but I did it for us, my little tulip. You encouraged me to go. And that's the point. Harry's wife will have encouraged him to go because she wants to strike a blow against the media. And she wants to use Harry, as I explained yesterday, for instance, to get Piers Morgan's head on a plate. But she doesn't want to be associated with the failure because that means taking responsibility. Nobody likes to fail, but the point is this, that when it occurs, a narcissist doesn't want to be seen anywhere near it because that threatens their sense of brilliance, and it means that any responsibility for that is a form of accountability, which means that the control aspect of the narcissist is being threatened. Harry is a lonesome figure that attended for the purposes of giving his evidence and was not provided with any support by his wife, demonstrating once again how her narcissism functions. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.